Hello, my name is Frank, and this video is being made by Joe to talk about a studio setup. In all seriousness, this is Joe. I had a viewer who asked about my studio setup, so this would just be a quick video to discuss that. I'll do it on a very high level for those of you who just want to watch this for a minute and then go watch something else. And then I'll talk more about what I have. So on a very high level, got an iMac running Logic, Logic Pro 10. I have a Quantum 2 Presonus 4-input interface. I've got a Boss GT001, and I have a Presonus channel strip. Got some different monitors. I got a controller, keyboard, and I record onto a Thunderbolt external drive. So that's the quick answer to what I use. The Quantum 2 I use mainly for vocals, acoustic guitar, archtop jazz guitar, and the channel strip I use mainly just for vocals. It's got EQ, compression, and preamp, and phantom power if you need it. I have various mics that I use. I've got a ribbon and some condensers, and if anyone has any questions about those, I have several, so it'll take me a while to talk about it, but I'll be happy to do that in the comments. The Boss GT001 I use for process guitar sounds, and I like it. I like it better than any of the plugins I've used. It's, using miking an amp is a whole nother thing. I like doing that too, but for convenience and process sounds, it works great. So that's the high level answer. And so if you want to go watch another video, enjoy. But okay, some more detail. With Logic, I use that because I'm used to it. I've been using Logic since it was called eMagic in the 90s, so I'm just used to it. For composers and songwriters, I find it very user-friendly. And it just is very simple. It's very simple for me to use. If you're using GarageBand, it's actually kind of similar, but Logic has, more to it. It's a more complicated version of it. So if you have a Mac and don't have a couple $100 to get Logic Pro, just use GarageBand. There's people who've done albums on it. So if you don't need a lot of fancy tools and stuff for editing, it works fine, actually. Yeah, so as far as plugins go, for drums, I like BFD. And there's a little controversy now with that because BFD 3, the latest version, doesn't work with Catalina, which is the latest operating system. And like a dummy, I knew that, and I went ahead and upgraded to Catalina, and now I can't use BFD 3. So I'm back to using BFD 2, which is a good program, but BFD 3 is better, sounds better, in my opinion, and does a lot of better stuff. Since this isn't a review about BFD, I'll just leave it at that. But it's a great program. It's kind of expensive, but it just sounds great. I have some albums I've done with actual drummers, and some I do with the software. And maybe drummers would notice the difference, but your average listener probably wouldn't. So I recommend it. The drums that come in Logic, and really all the software that come in Logic, is really good. But if you would compare the drums, the drum loops, and the drum programs that come with Logic to BFD, you definitely hear the difference, especially in BFD 3. It's very high quality, the way it was recorded, and it just sounds so good. It's easy to edit, and you can trigger it with MIDI drums if you want to. Some people do that. And it's kind of cool because you could record a drum part, and if you don't like the snare, you could go in and change it. For example, like here, And again, this is BFD2. This isn't the latest version, but you can see there's different snares you can get, and so on and so forth. So then I've got some various, like compression plugins and things I use, and this isn't a video about that, so I won't get into all of that. For mastering, I use Ozone, and I have Ozone 7. It's up to 9 now, but for me, 7 works just fine, so that's what I use. So that's basically my setup. Anybody has any questions about anything else I'm doing, let me know. This was a quick video in response to a viewer's, question about what I use. And there's no right and wrong, really, with digital recording. It's come a long way since the 90s when I started, because, you can do amazing things from a home studio. And or take a laptop with you and record remotely, or there's even like standalone devices, like ones that Zoom makes. I've used those before, and they work great. For recording remotely. You could record on a beach or in the forest with that stuff and probably work pretty good. So there's different kinds of DAWs. I like Logic, but some people love Pro Tools. It's the industry standard, and for engineers especially, I think it's great. So it just depends. It's everybody's different. There's no right or wrong. There's all kinds of, nowadays, God, there's so many different kinds of like converters. And when it boils down to it, really all you're doing is converting an analog sound, and either this USB device or this Thunderbolt device is converting it to zeros and ones. That's basically it. So, and there's different preamps you can use to color the sound, and some people like to use a console still. You can do that. It really just depends on your budget and what you're trying to do, right? So, but that's what I do. That's what works for me. And, feel free to put your comments or anything you want to add to that. And at the end of this, I'll throw a little clip of, audio clip of a tune I'm working on now. I just got a 12-string electric and I've been experimenting with and having a little fun. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody, and watching, and have a good one.